What's going on, everybody? Meteorologist Brandon Lawson here in the Pinpoint Weather Center. It is a very active weather pattern right now for hurricane season and here locally when it comes down to a cold front moving into the area. So looking at the tropics, we've got a lot going on. We've got two named storms and potentially another named storm on the way as we head towards the weekend. And then to the west, we've got a cold front in our area that's going to be moving through. That's going to bring shower and thunderstorm chances really already starting today, but better chances for Charlotte and points south and east of Charlotte as we go into tomorrow, Friday, and even through the weekend. So if you have weekend plans, might want to have to plan to dodge some showers and storms and have the rain gear handy during those plans, especially, again, if you're going to be outdoors this weekend. So let's talk about the tropics first. That's something that we haven't really had to talk about a lot here in the month of September or really late August. So we've had about a month vacation from the tropics, but things have really heated up here over the last week. So we've got Hurricane Gabrielle. That is the northernmost storm in the Atlantic right now. It's moving away from the United States, moving off to the east, the Azores Islands, and even spots like Portugal and Spain are actually going to be watching that storm. And then we've got Tropical Storm Umberto, which actually formed earlier this weekend, or earlier this evening, I should say. It's honestly a weaker storm now, but could become a stronger storm or even a hurricane here within the next couple of days. And then we've got what's called Invest 94L. That is just an investigation area over the Caribbean islands right now. The National Hurricane Center is monitoring for a potential tropical cyclone, maybe later this week and into the weekend. So something we're going to be keeping an eye on for sure is that disturbance in the Caribbean island. So let's go ahead and over the Caribbean islands there. Let's go ahead and talk about what's happening in the Atlantic storm by storm. So we've got Hurricane Gabrielle, which is a Category 2 storm right now. It's actually weakened quite a bit. It was a Category 4 storm earlier this week. Now, it's moving through kind of a less favorable environment, but still impressive-looking storm. Here's the track on Gabrielle. Again, it's moving due east right now, and it could make some impacts to the Azores Islands, could make landfall of the Azores Islands on Friday morning before becoming a tropical depression by Sunday. And yes, impacting spots like Portugal, Spain, Morocco could deal with some rainfall and some gusty winds from what's left of Gabrielle by the second half of the weekend and into early next week. So kind of impressive. The storm essentially just took a whole U-turn in the Atlantic, and now it's going to be impacting spots like that out there to our east. Now let's talk about Tropical Storm Umberto. Here it is right here. It's it's really looking good now, organized. And that's why it's a tropical storm now. It is more organized now. 40 mile per hour sustained winds as of the 5 o'clock update. And this storm's likely going to be strengthening into a hurricane over the next day or so. More likely a weaker hurricane, Category 1, maybe Category 2. And then here's that investigation area that's over the Caribbean islands. So notice these two storms are like really close to one another. So again, we don't have a storm yet over the Caribbean island, but we could have a storm here soon within the next few days. And we do have this tropical system, Tropical Storm Umberto. So yeah, this isn't very common where you get two storms or a storm and a disturbance this close to one another. So let's go ahead and track Tropical Storm Umberto for you. Again, so we're looking through Friday, and then Saturday. So Saturday we have a Category 1 storm forecast by the National Hurricane Center Saturday afternoon. And then Monday, tracking a Category 2 storm. So obviously it looks a little alarming, right? It looks like it's kind of headed for the U.S., but that's not going to be the case. Notice how it just kind of slows down. It's not really making much of a change in movement there, and Bermuda likely staying south of it. But I want to point something out here. So again, we've got these two disturbances here. I should say the one disturbance over the Caribbean island, and then we have the Tropical Storm Umberto. So here's a look at some of the long-range model data here. Notice how close the model data is to putting these storms close to one another. So essentially, this is kind of spaghetti plots of, you've probably heard the spaghetti plots, but it's essentially just a bunch of long-range models that are going out in time and trying to give us an idea of what could be happening with these tropical systems in the future. So we're not looking at just one model run, we're looking at several model runs. So essentially, looking at this, we've got two spaghetti plots, we've got two systems that we're monitoring on the long-range model data here. And notice how, as we get into next Monday, these storms are essentially right next to one another. That is if the Invest 94L there, AL94 forms. Again, it hasn't formed quite yet, so that obviously makes it even more trickier for the weather models. But when they get close to one another like this, it's like, man, what's going to happen? So I want to talk about what's called the Fujiwhara effect. This is a very rare and can be a kind of a chaotic phenomenon in weather. It doesn't happen very often. So the Fujiwhara effect, it's essentially when two cyclones get close to one another. The Fujiwhara effect just describes how they're interacting. So scenario one, essentially the storms get at least they have to be within 870 miles of one another to interact with one another to get the Fujiwhara effect. So the scenario one is that the cyclones will rotate around one another, so rotate around a common axis. That's scenario one. And again, this is just a scenario thing. I'm not saying either one of these scenarios is going to happen. What you just saw there, where it looks like that storm's turning into North Carolina, the northernmost one, not saying that's going to happen, but that can be a scenario when it comes down to the Fujiwhara effect. Now let's talk about scenario number two. Scenario number two is that the cyclones could merge into a single storm, or the stronger storm could absorb the weaker storm, but either way, they just merge into one single storm, and you just get the one storm out there. So that's scenario number two. Scenario number three is that the storms repel each other. So they kind of push each other away. So that's another thing that could happen out in the Atlantic Basin. So yeah, there's just so many different things that could happen with this. But the first thing we have to happen is we got to get the Invest 94L, the storm that's the disturbance right now, the cluster of storms that's over the Caribbean islands, to even form. It hasn't even formed yet into a tropical system. It does have like an 80 or 90% chance of doing so within the next 7 days. So our weather pattern obviously going to be very tricky until we figure out what happens with these storms out here. Weather model data is all over the place. If anybody tells you what is going to happen next week, they say they know, they're lying to you, because nobody knows what's going to happen. I will say this, I don't think we're going to be experiencing a hefty tropical system here in the Queen City news viewing area. I'd be a little bit more concerned if I had any interest along the coast. I mean, we're already going to be seeing a high rip current risk from these storms just churning off the East Coast there. So be prepared for that if you're heading to the beaches or having friends going to the coast. Just be careful being in the water, because rip current risk will be high. And then again, we could have maybe some higher rain chances early to mid next week from maybe some tropical moisture from this. I'm not necessarily concerned about a major hurricane interrupting things for us as we go in the middle of next week, but definitely something we'll keep an eye on, because we could have some rain impacts. Speaking of rain, we've got a cold front moving in. Been a little bit since we've really been able to say a cold front is going to bring meaningful rain. But that's what we've got. I mean, you zoom in a little bit closer, you can see the western Carolinas. We've got some showers and storms getting ready to cross the Tennessee state line and heading to North Carolina, or the western Carolinas. Had even a few storms move through the Piedmont, northern Piedmont, and really through the Triad region. Really this evening. So yeah, pretty busy look here. And let's show you futurecast here as we go through the evening, overnight tonight. A few storms skirting through the foothills and the mountains. And then as we go into tomorrow, we'll see probably a better chance, especially tomorrow late afternoon into the evening, of scattered showers and thunderstorms around the foothills, mountains, even in Charlotte and points south and east of I-85 will have a better chance of seeing storms tomorrow compared to what we saw today. And then we'll have to get some more long-range model data. Matter of fact, I might even be able to change that. Let's see if we've got any. Yeah, 0Z hasn't ran quite yet, so I was going to try and get you some model data for Friday. I'll just kind of pull that up for you here. Yeah, so here's a look at some model data going into Friday. We start Friday morning, mainly dry, and then there we go, Friday afternoon, evening, more scattered showers and storms developing, and even maybe some more moisture pushing in Friday night. Friday night could be pretty active with more widespread showers and storms. So yeah, pretty busy weather pattern here as we close out the work week and head into the weekend. I mean, we could be looking at an inch or two of rain here for many areas. And here's the thing, we don't clear out this weekend. This boundary skirts through, but it's going to kind of sit here and kind of sit around for the weekend. So we're still going to have some unsettled weather at times this weekend. I think Saturday we're going to be dealing with numerous showers and maybe even some rumbles of thunder through the day on Saturday. And then on Sunday, still going to have that little bit of moisture lingering around with this area of low pressure. So that area of low pressure is essentially cutting itself off from the main flow in the upper levels. So it's just going to kind of meander around the mid-Atlantic and southeast next week. That's another thing that could interact with tropical systems out in the Atlantic too, and cause the steering currents to change. So that's something else we'll have to watch. But this area of low pressure is going to keep rain chances around virtually through early next week, and then we'll have to see what happens with the tropics. So looking at your severe risk here across the Carolinas, we're looking at an isolated threat for gusty winds tomorrow, and that could even linger into Friday as well. I think there's going to be less instability around for that on the weekend, though, this weekend. So we'll keep an eye on things for you. Maybe some localized high water concerns and nuisance flooding spots, so just poor drainage, low-lying spots. Looking at your mountain forecast, yeah, pretty unsettled here. Saturday, that marks 1 year since historic and devastating Hurricane Helene ravaged our friends in the Western Carolinas, so still thinking about them. We've got a lot of coverage happening out there this week, of course, to think about them too. I mean, they obviously have been through a lot out there, and they're still going through a lot here, even a year later. And unfortunately, it does look pretty unsettled heading into the weekend of the 1 year since Helene. So you've got showers and storms really on and off through the next several days across the mountains. And then also as we get into here towards Charlotte, we're still looking at scattered showers and storms too. Maybe a stronger storm tomorrow, and really this unsettled pattern continuing through the weekend. And really next week, Monday and Tuesday, rain chances could go up or down depending on that area of low pressure that's kind of meandering around the mid-Atlantic and southeast for next week. And then we've also got the tropics we'll keep an eye on as well, with those two storms maybe rotating around one another or interacting with each other with the Fujiwhara effect. A lot in the discussion tonight, guys, but definitely a lot to talk about. The tropics are heating up, and I definitely just wanted to talk about that with you and let you know kind of what we can expect here over the next 7 days, and a very tricky weather pattern, but a very active weather pattern for sure. Take care of yourself, take care of each other as we continue to navigate through this weather pattern together. Be safe.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.